Okay, welcome back to the third episode of the Sandy Hahn podcast. And this one's going to be titled Sleep Apnea, and sleep apnea sucks a fucking bag of dicks. And it just does. So, we're getting into a lot of that bullshit that I've dealt with and still continue to deal with sleep apnea and a CPAP machine. So, before I get into that, I want to talk about a few of the things I noticed after being able to watch the first podcast that Ted was kind enough to send to me. And a few things I noticed was, first off, that my nose was very red. And as you can see from the Band-Aid on my nose, it's from the CPAP mask that I have to put on, which I hate. And it aggravates my skin. It started a few zits, quite honestly, which, of course, I have to pop, and then they form together and make one giant zit. And then it gets infected, and it's nasty. And so that's why the Band-Aid, because you don't want to see that shit. And one of the other things I noticed was that I was slouched over. I was in a comfy chair, and made me look a little chubby, and it's not good for my back, so I'm sitting in a much firmer chair, and that feels a lot better. And the third thing I noticed was that I'm going to try and be more upbeat and humorous. That's how I always am, but after watching the first two, there's a few funny parts, but it's pretty heavy. It's some deep stuff, and there's going to be a lot more deep stuff that we get into, some pretty horrible shit, but I'm going to do my best to remain upbeat and try and inject more humor, because that's what I've always done my whole life. So, and it's actually going to be fairly easy for me to be upbeat, because I feel better. And I know it's because this podcast. I felt better last week. I was walking better. I was talking better. And it's all I could think about and all weekend. So it's therapeutic, honestly. That's the main reason I wanted to do this, and I can't. And it's working. It's helping me, and that part's exciting. So it's and when I say feel better, I want to talk about feeling good, feeling better, because they're very different for me than I would say most people. Because the majority of the time, I don't feel great. I don't feel good. I either feel okay, or bad, or horrible. And it goes back and forth and varies. And it's day to day. It still is. I have no idea what's going to come on. It just does. And it's awful. But in a lot of the days before, there's a lot of bad, a lot of horrible, occasionally an okay. And I'm okay with being okay. I can live like this. I'd like it to get better, and I'm going to keep trying, but it certainly beats the hell out of feeling horrible and feeling like you're going to die. So, but even now, as good as I felt at the end of the week, on the weekend, I did not sleep real good. And it's a combination of this mask that I can't stand and congestion. I don't know if my allergies, it's hard to breathe through my nose, which is pretty impossible to use a mask when you do that. And the other reason why I didn't sleep, because my mind, I couldn't stop. It was racing, because I was thinking about all more things I want to talk about. because, again, it's therapeutic. I want to keep talking about this as long as I can because it's helping me. And I hope when others see this, they'll want to watch more because they'll know that it can heal them. And again, that's the main reason for doing this. So anyway, so again, we'll get back to this giant zit from the CPAP mask. Actually, we'll get back to that, but I'm going to start this one with the summer of 2020, kind of where I left off on the second episode. And summer of 2020, again, I stopped doing the holistic medicine, seeing the holistic doctors, or they decided to do other things. So I was still searching, but I was, again, feeling okay. Not great, but it's okay. Actually started try and play golf again, which I didn't think I was going to ever do again, but I did it. It wasn't pretty, but I did it. And my wife and I were planning on going to northern Michigan, which we love. It's absolutely beautiful up there. Like Denver, Sunshine State. Okay, that was my first attempt at humor. That's from the movie Old School, which is genius. So if you hadn't watched it, go and watch that. I am going to try and, again, slip more humor into this. I do that a lot of times with funny lines from movies and TV shows. I think it's amusing. But so summer of 2020, it was early summer, and we were planning to go to North Michigan. And prior to us leaving, a day or two, my son had come back from college. This is when COVID was really kicking in, and they were home from school, and then he actually went back to school just to get his stuff they had left. And when he came back, he realized that he was exposed to some kids down there who had COVID. And he came home and got tested, and he was positive. So thankfully, we weren't really near him that much at that point. But we decided that we had to tell my brother-in-law, TR, his girlfriend, Kelly, who have a beautiful house on Burt Lake in Michigan, which we love going to. And we had to tell them it's possible we were exposed. And so we were like, we can't go. And later that day, they wanted us to come up, and we wanted to go, but we're trying to do the right thing and be safe. And then he said, okay, my in-laws, John and Carol Eppel, who are lovely people, love them very much. They also have a place up north, and they weren't there. So he thought, well, you guys can come up here, stay at their place, so we're separate. And we're only 20 minutes away, so we could just drive over and hang out in their backyard by a fire and go on the dock and still enjoy ourselves, but we just weren't going to stay in the house for obvious reasons. So we did that, and it was nice. It's beautiful up there, and it was good to get away and let Xander quarantine. And Isabel was complaining because she wanted to get the hell out of there and go stay somewhere else, but thankfully she was a good sister and stayed behind in order to feed him, bring him meals. She would, I think, hang out in the basement. She'd bring him water and meals, leave him by his front door or by his bedroom door, and so we could survive. So that worked out okay. And we were up north, and it was good, beautiful. And then pretty shortly after we got there, I started not feeling so good, and it was mainly sleep. If I don't sleep well, I am a disaster the next day, especially with this disease. It's hard to function. So I first few days were okay, and then it wasn't, and I was having a hard time sleeping, and I would wake up 4 or 5 times a night gasping for air. I couldn't breathe. My heart was racing. I had chest pains. It was awful. And that happened one night. I'm like, all right, deal with it. And it happened 3 nights in a row. And I wasn't sleeping. I was terrified. And the next day I had to ask my wife to bring me to the ER because I didn't feel good and something was wrong. I mean, obviously I know I was sick, but needed to get checked out. So she brought me in and spent a little time in the ER, which is never fun, but I did a test. They took blood, blood pressure, EKG, all that stuff, and basically said, my heart's good. And which is great to hear. But again, it's amazing what anxiety and depression can do to make you feel like you're having a heart attack. So I knew it was sleep apnea. Probably had it for a long time and just never wanted to deal with it, especially going to one of those sleep studies. I had signed up for one, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. So went home, or we stopped at a CVS. I got like a mouth guard. Thought that maybe that would help, and it did for a little bit. Wasn't great, but I wasn't waking up gasping for air, so that was good. So we were up there for about a month, and again, it was okay. And then finally came back home and tried to set up a sleep study, which is a pain in the ass. That took probably a month just to get the study done. So in the meantime, I'm not sleeping great, but again, I was okay with this mouth guard. And during that time, I remember that's when I called my neurologist and said, I want to try that carbidopa, levodopa, Oompa Loompa drug. And because, if there's a chance it could help, I'll take it. If it's not, I'll stop. But let's give it a shot. So he gave me that and some muscle relaxers. Started taking those, and they started helping. Not a ton, but a little bit. And I'll take a little bit every day. So that was helping, and then it was finally time for me to do the sleep study, which that was interesting because they put you into a hotel. The Cleveland Clinic, has a wing in the back of this hotel near our house. There I would go back and spend the night, and I didn't know what to expect. But I'm a guy, so I'm thinking I get to spend the night alone in a hotel room. And let's just say I had my own plans. And I was not planning on being the master of my domain. And for any of you who don't know what that's about, look up Seinfeld and look up that episode. Probably one of the best ones. Should say it's a topic that they didn't want to say on TV, but they did a brilliant job. Larry David is brilliant. and he did a great job. So anyway, look it up. It's funny. But and I had plans, and I brought some gummies and a bottle of wine with me. I'm like, I'm gonna have a time until I got there, and those plans were quickly squelched because you walk in and there's rooms. There's one room that's just full of computers and monitors to monitor the other rooms. So I'm in this room and I'm being videotaped and listening. And so obviously I'm not doing anything stupid. So those plans, again, were squelched pretty quickly. And they said, okay, we're going to let you relax a little bit. And then they're going to come in and hook me up with all kinds of monitors all over me. So I mean, I could hardly move once all the stuff was on me. And, and they were going to get started with one mask. And prior to that, again, I get a little time to relax. So I took some gummies, drank some wine, got in the mood. And then, of course, it's hard to sleep when you're tied up, all these monitors. It's hard to move. And then they said, okay, what mask do you want? Because I didn't know. So there's a mask that goes over your whole nose and mouth, and there's one that goes just under your nose. So I thought, all right, let's try that one. Tried that one, and it didn't work. They came in after 15 minutes. Were like, oh, yeah, this is not going to work because you breathe through your mouth, and this one's not going to work. So they gave me the one that goes over my nose and mouth. And, okay, try and sleep, which is hard to do when you're being videotaped and they're talking to you and they can hear me if I need anything, which is nice, and that's, I guess, how it should be. So I fell asleep, I guess, eventually, because in the morning, they get you up at like 5:30, 6 a.m. and kick your ass out. And I don't ever get up that early in the morning. If I'm up that early, it's usually because I haven't gone to bed from the night before. I did that a lot. But they kind of came in and said, whew, yeah, you got sleep apnea, all right. That was pretty bad. And basically they said I would have an episode, as they'd call it, when you stop breathing or start gasping. And you have an episode. And they said basically I was having an episode pretty much every minute. So, throughout an hour, every minute I'm having an episode. So it's like once you fall asleep, it's like somebody watches you after a minute and they come and go, bah, wake up. It's horrible. So anyway, I dealt with that. Went home, finally got the mask, and it was that was another ordeal, and trying to get used to that. And I'm still struggling with it to this day. Obviously, you can see from the Band-Aid on my nose. So I'm going to try some other things out. There's some other option that I saw a commercial for called Inspire Wellness or Inspire Sleep. Some sort of metal or something is inserted surgically, minor little surgery, and then it does something, an electrical impulse to keep your breathing, keep your mouth from, or your tongue from closing off your airways. I don't know. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to look into it because I hate this mask. Until I do that, I'll try back to the one that's under the nose, because the one over the nose is just a disaster. So I tried. I was excited to have it, and I couldn't figure out how tight to make the mask. I just didn't like it. And when you're you turn it on, it's just blowing air into your mouth. And, pretty quickly, my mouth's dry. I mean, I get dry mouth a lot as it is, like right now. And so you'd wake up, it's not working. I'm gasping and choking because my mouth's dry, and I just would rip it off and throw it at the wall, and wasn't happy. Kept trying, and my dad has been using the machine, and he swears by it. And I just wanted to sleep. And he had a head strap to keep your mouth shut. I tried, that didn't work. And I found these little mints, xylomelts that you stick. And those actually work for because it keeps your saliva going while you sleep. And those work for a little while. But I still wasn't sleeping very good. And then, of course, the first megazit appeared. And I was so nasty. I mean, I couldn't wear the mask. I just slept without it for a while to try and recover. And then got past that, and I started wearing Band-Aids on my nose when I slept. I think there's some other things out there which I need to look into. Maybe some sort of, I don't know, lotion or gel that I could put on there that could do better. But again, I'd rather not even wear that mask. So we'll see where that goes and how that develops. But I finally, so this was the time I got it. This was December, around there, 2020. And kind of started to get the hang of it. And it was okay. Again, it's never great, but started kind of getting the hang of it here and there. So I still kept looking for other options because there's got to be something else. Yeah, so if anyone knows of anything else that's worked well for sleep apnea outside of the mask, please let me know. Again, I have my dad and some other good friends who use it, and they love it. And I wish I loved it, but I don't. That was the end of 2020. And actually went on a real nice trip then. My wife and kids and Tiara and Kelly and their kids went to Cabo in Mexico for Christmas and New Year's, and it was glorious. But I had to, lugging that machine along and getting distilled water in Mexico, that's an ordeal. One of the other times I went to Mexico and needed distilled water, my wife tried to order some, and I'm like, I doubt they're going to have it. And of course, they didn't. But then they found some, and they delivered it to our room, and it was about a 50-gallon drum of distilled water. I'm like, okay, are you kidding me? We just need like a gallon or half gallon. But that's what we had to deal with. So she is a trooper, and that's all we had. So she just leaned it over and fill a little cup up with some water, distilled water, to pour in the machine. But that's some funny stories about that, because I couldn't move very well, and she's a strong woman, but it's a big 50-gallon drum of distilled water. So anyway, we got through it, and so now we're moving into the early part of 2021, last year, and what a fucking roller coaster that was. And again, it's a lot of horrible times, but some great times too. And we'll go through all that. The next episode is going to be called Signs of Hope. And the reason there were signs of hope, because we'll go into some more detail in the next one, but I was feeling okay. I started playing golf again. And I actually was playing pretty good. Not great, but I used to be a pretty good golfer. I could shoot in the high 60s, low 70s a lot. I can't do that anymore. But, I was shooting in the 80s, which a lot of people would like to do, but can't. But I still didn't like that. But it was just nice to be out golfing and actually playing decent and be able to walk. And it was difficult. A lot of places I hit the ball I couldn't go to, but my brother who I was playing with just pull it out because I throw it somewhere that was flat. I wasn't that concerned about the score. Wasn't playing for money, and I just wanted to have fun. And I did, and I hope for those kind of moments again. I believe I can have them. I believe I will. I even played last month down in Florida, and I would say I rode on the golf cart, hit a few shots, but I hit it, and was an amazing sign for me. Again, I just take any little victories here and there, any day, just to give me some faith to keep fighting. And it can be difficult, very difficult, but I'm not giving up. And anyone who's watching this or listening, don't give up. So that'll be the end of the 3rd episode, and a lot more coming, and I'm excited about it. It's going to be fun, and it's healing me. Again, I already feel it right now, and I'm excited to do a lot more, and looking forward to it. Thanks, everyone.